We started our EQU podcast last year and very well received. Thank you to everybody that has liked and subscribed to that. And we realized that's a one way communication, listening to our graduates from the last 27 years share their journey and what they're doing with this EQ education all these years later. But what we all love is the sense of community that gets created here at Choice Center. And we love interaction. So, as a companion to the EQU podcast, we created the EQU Power Hour, which is live on Monday nights at 7. It gives us an opportunity to invite grads to host and share and teach about an area of expertise that they have. They do 15, 20 minutes of TED style talk and then open it up to questions for the rest of the hour. And you can ask them anything. And we have a lot of fun with these. So thank you for joining in and let's get started. So tonight, our EQU Power Hour host is Jenn Benjamins. She is a graduate from 2022 in LV207. Jenn spent 22 years with the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. She is a retired sergeant. And over her 22 years, some of the things that she specialized in were working in the vice unit, specifically in undercover and covert operations. She spent years collaborating with numerous federal agencies such as the ATF, the DEA, and the FBI. She worked a lot in sex trafficking and narcotics. And one of the things that she discovered in doing all this undercover work is that there are actually very few women in elite undercover operations. And so in her retirement, she has made it her mission to expand that reach and bring more women and train more women to have careers in these fields. And so she is the founder of Covert Blue LLC, which is the largest specialized training organization for female undercover roles. And it's also the only organization that is trained by 100% women and for women, which is really cool. And Jenn is popular on the podcast circuit. She's appeared on Gold Shields and NYPD Blue through the Looking Glass. And tonight she is here with us on the EQU Power Hour with Choice Center. So Jenn, welcome. Thank you for being with us tonight. And we'll turn it over to you to talk about how do we keep our kids safe with everything that's going on online, on their phones, at school, out in the community.
So I did almost 22 years in Las Vegas Metro, and I worked a lot of undercover, various operations, different kind of genres, whether it was from prostitution or buying narcotics or working in nightclubs or anything. So going back, I worked a lot of undercover units. A lot of times I worked in seedy areas. I worked in high end places. I worked kind of all over. My experience in Vice really had me look at how we interact with our kids and protecting kids because when I was in the Vice unit, the youngest victim of human trafficking that we had was 11. And that's really young. So you're like, okay, where is this person's parents? How did they get to become a victim of human trafficking? How did they connect with these people? And then somehow end up in Las Vegas because she wasn't from here. She was actually from Oregon. So she made her way down here. So when I look at cases like that and I think about how our kids are today, this was probably 15 plus years ago. And now we have all these things like social medias. We have Instagram, we have TikTok, we have Snapchat, we have all these things that allow predators to really be at the kids' fingertips now. And a lot of the things that are going on now with kids being really their heads in their phone and they want to post stuff and see their lives and see their friends, it's become really easy for predators to pretend they're somebody else and friend your kid. And that's a lot of what's going on with kids that are sex trafficked or that are lured in. There's a grooming that goes on. A lot of our kids are dealing with self-esteem issues, and that's also stems from a lot of the social media living up to, I'll say Kardashian because I'm older, but all those other influencers that are out there, and they're posting and posting and posting. It's just like a click away from friending the wrong person. And I found that in my work in prostitution, a lot of the younger girls that we got, and we probably averaged Anywhere between, 100 to maybe 180 on a really bad year of juveniles per year that we caught that were arrested for prostitution, and then we turned it around and was looking for the predator who turned them into that lifestyle. I looked at those from 11 to 17, and a lot of them are foster kids. A lot of them come from broken homes. A lot of them, their parents work all the time and they're not home and they're not present. So when they're out here on the internet or they're on social medias, it's very easy for someone to just be present with them and to take up their time and to maybe fill some gaps that the household is not. We found a lot of kids that were runaways and then got caught with the wrong person. But a lot of times it's the parents aren't present and this person comes in, shows them attention. Maybe they're not well off and will offer to buy them stuff. And so you have this really bad, like a recipe for disaster when that kind of stuff happens, especially when the parents aren't home and they're not monitoring a lot of the things their kids are doing online. So that's one of the things that I'd say, if you had to worst case scenario it, your kid finds a predator online, friends them, and then that person takes them away from their house and then travels them all the way to Las Vegas, California, Oregon, Florida. That's one of those things where, if your parent isn't present, a lot of bad things can happen because the kid's left to their own thoughts and ideas and perceptions and maybe something that they want or need, and someone else is going to fill that for them. So very interesting things I saw was the overall hidden thing was that the parents weren't present. And so that's why I know what apps my kids are on. I have Life 360, which I love that app. I track my kids, I track my dad, I track everybody where they're going and coming. And why I like that app so much is when they leave a place, like my kid leaves the house, it says she's leaving the house. If she goes to her friend's house, you can program that in there. She's there. So I'm really looking at where they're at and what they're doing, how long they've been there, if their phone's not charged. And if you upgrade with that app, you can see how fast your kid's driving. It's a really good app just to monitor your kids and see how they're at, where they are and how they're what they're doing. And I say this over and over again. I'll probably say it till I'm blue in the face. Is like when you're a present parent, a lot of things can be avoided and bad decisions will not be made when you have that trust of your parent. You trust your kid to make good decisions. They're 100% on board. And you have that relationship where you can talk freely and not be worried about being judged, even if you do make bad decisions. So having that present parent is really, I think, the number one key to keeping your kids safe because they're going to make decisions and they might make some poor choices, but if you're there, you're gonna be able to support them in the long run, even if it's a bad decision that they make. Things happen, so and also to know, like, what your kids are on. Like, when I recall recently Charlie Kirk, and they talk about his alleged killer, they were talking about him being on Discord, and Discord is, as my kid describes it, kinda like a kid's Facebook where they can go chat and they can go into rooms and you're going to find other people there that are like-minded like you. But I have a good relationship with my kid. We can talk about what she's doing, what she's posting and things like that. So I know it. So Discord probably has a really bad connotation right now because of that kind of anti-politics stuff on there or gamers because gamers are big onto that Discord. But again, it's about knowing what your kid's doing, what kind of app they're on, what games they're playing. I remember back in 2011. I remember hearing a man's voice coming from my kid's room. And I think at the time they might have been like 10. And my kids now are 19 and 17. And I ran in there because I was like, who are you talking to? And it turns out she was watching some YouTuber influencer that talks about gaming. And I see my kid now still watching other people game, and they are on YouTube all the time watching other people play games, which I never still will ever understand.
Yeah, you say the number one thing is to be present, but what are some of the things that parents should be looking out for if their kids are on their phones, iPads? Like, what are some of the signs that you may want to like dive a little deeper, try to understand what they're up to? What are signs that maybe they're doing something that you should check in on?
Yes. And this is again building that relationship where you're friends with your kids on their devices. Like I'm friends with my kid on Instagram. And so I get to see all the stuff that she's posting and I get to see some of the ding dongs that post stuff on hers because she has 52,000 followers. So there's some people on there where I'm like, Kennedy, do you know this person? He's like, no, it's just a follower. And I'm like, oh, well, he's kind of creepy. Just be aware and having open conversations about who's following them and who they're talking to and is someone safe and not safe and stuff like that. So I would look at a lot of the things. I mean, the big obvious thing is if your kid would hand you their phone and say, look, you can see exactly who I'm talking to and why. But when they're going places that they wouldn't normally go to or talking to people you don't know and you're like, oh, who's this? Where do they live? And how do you know them? Do they go to your school? Having these conversations with the kids. So if you can look on their phone, you share phone apps, like the, what do you call it? The accounts, you'll be able to see a little bit more of what they're doing and monitor what they have going on. That's probably one of the things I think is the best. And then just again, being present. I'll go into my kid's room and I'll be like, "Oh, who are you talking to?" And she's on Discord, and she shows me who she's talking to and whatever. And we had a very kind of a scary situation that I thought was going to go really bad at one point because Kaden came to me and said, "Hey, I have this friend. Can we go to Austin and go to this concert?" And I'm like, "Who is this girl?" And she said, "Oh, she's 16. She lives in Far Texas, which is the border of Mexico and Texas." And she goes, "Oh, I met her on this gaming site. And can we go to Austin and go to a concert and meet her for the first time?" And I'm like, "No way. That's crazy. Please let me talk to her mom." Does she? I'm like, "Just give me her number because I want to make sure this kid is like real, like she's actually real." And one of the things that Kaden brought up, which I thought was interesting, she goes, "Mom, she accidentally FaceTimed me. So I know she's a young girl." And I said, "Okay, give me your mom's number." So I talked to the mom. Her mom seems great. Her mom was apprehensive. She's like, "Oh my gosh, my kids never asked me for anything. And then now all of a sudden she wants to go to this concert and meet you guys. And we don't know who you are." And I was like, "You're right. I don't know who you are either." But at least we built a little bit of a relationship where I felt in my gut, in my intuition, that this was a safe. And when we met, she's the sweetest girl. They're still friends to this day, and this has been 2 years now. And but that's how sometimes kids are meeting is through these gaming sites. They're meeting through Discord and to whatever chat room they're in because they have something in common. I mean, that's just kinda how kids are meeting now. Think about it like now, us adults, how we're meeting on dating sites. Think back in the day, AOL chat rooms. Remember those where you would like go into AOL chat rooms? It's the same thing. Discord's very, very similar to that. So, they are meeting these people, but you as a parent, it's behoove of you to really do your work. Don't trust that this person that they're talking to on the other line really is who they say they are. They could be a 50-year-old guy in Florida. The Texas thing, I was like, I feel okay about it. We're going to a mutual place. We're not going to her place. We were going to a hotel and we're going to a concert. And I know the mom was probably thinking the same thing, like, let's meet in person and then we'll see if this is real. And then she was great after that. I went to the concert with the kids. She went off somewhere else. We met back up. We had a great weekend seeing Austin and that worked out really well. But some of these kids I've heard, there was this kid that he left college and he was a young kid. He was 18, 19. Met somebody and then started driving to Florida because he met somebody online. And then he went about halfway down and he figured out from Arizona about Texas. He was like, what am I doing? And this person stopped texting and stuff. And I ghosted him probably because it wasn't a real person. And I think that in today's world where both parents work, so they're busy, there's no one at home. Everyone's in their phones, in their computers, on their gaming things, and it's prime to just meet kids on these gaming sites, these websites, the Discords and even Instagram. And I have good conversations with my kids, especially Kennedy, because in her analytics in Instagram, it's something like half of her 52,000 followers are 55-year-old men and above. So we have great conversations about don't be telling them exactly where you live, turn off your locations. I've seen several things where the kids keep especially Snapchat, because Snapchat, you can put like your little emoji body on there. And if it's open to the public, they can see exactly where you are and they can go right to wherever you are, your house, the mall, or whatever, and see that you're there, knock on the door and be like, "Hey, remember me? I was talking to you on this gaming site." So that's why I like Life 360 because I don't want to track my kid on Snapchat. I'd rather track them on Life 360 where I'm seeing everybody, I'm seeing where they're coming and going. I get alerts when they're home, when they're not home, when they are going to school, when they arrive to school. So those things are much safer than leaving Snapchat open and leaving your location on. That's just a recipe for disaster. And that's how we solve a lot of cases because these
Yeah.
ding dongs get in fights on the strip. They're logged into their Snapchat and oh, there they are. They were right at the point where, the shooting was or the fight was.
Yeah.
So location is important.
You also told me once that sometimes it's safer, even for ourselves as women or even men, maybe don't post while you're there because
Mhm.
if somebody is looking to track you or they're kind of stalking you or whatever reason, you posting from a specific location can alert them to come to that location. Whereas if you post a couple hours after you're there, then they can't just come and find you in the moment.
Yeah, exactly. So let's say like I go on vacation. This is another good point of the way that you do that. So let's say I go on vacation, I go to Texas and I'm like real living. I'm here, guys. Look at this, place that I'm at and whatever. Well, meanwhile, if someone knows where you live, which is not hard to do a public record search, get your address. I mean, oh, well, she's not at home. Let me go burglarize her house. So you have that problem too. Plus, I look at like my kid who goes to a college, you send your kid to college and now they're posting all this stuff that they're doing. And I'm not there to protect my kid, but we talk about like posting after you're done with whatever trip, whatever thing that you were on. So then it's an after thing. It's not like, oh, I'm presently here and then people just show up.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Or posting like very specific thing. I tell people all the time, it's nice to get like a happy birthday from your friends and family, but if I'm searching for somebody like in the private investigator sector, I will scour your Instagram and Facebook or whatever you have, and I'm looking for your birthday because someone's going to wish you happy birthday. And then now I'm going to know how old you are. And they may say, like, happy 17th birthday. Wow. Okay, great. On October 13th, everybody wished you happy birthday. You're 17 years old. I can find you and find your date of birth and use that information. I could, do fraudulent things with that. So, yeah, that's a really good point about not posting currently, on a cruise to Mexico. Meanwhile, my house is getting burglarized.
Yes. We're getting some questions in the chat. By the way, Artie says that by not posting where he is in the moment, that also helps him to escape his office. So that's smart. Yes. But Marianne is asking about, and let me put it on the screen. She said, can you explain grooming and what that is? And apparently Vegas, we're almost number 2 in the US and wants to know what is grooming? What's the behavior that shows up during grooming? So share with us what is grooming?
So I know we talk about in emotional intelligence and EQ, we talk about enrolling someone into my vision. Well, pimps, predators are amazing enrollers. They will enroll you into another lifestyle, another dream, into your vision. So a lot of our pimps do a lot of grooming in the sense of like, they will say, you're beautiful when that kid's never been told they were beautiful. I'll buy you these clothes. I'll buy you this nice jewelry. We'll go to fancy places. We're working as a team. We're going to make all of our dreams come true. You just have to do this other stuff. It's really about enrolling the kid into the vision of doing something they wouldn't want to do. It could be selling drugs. It could be gang banging. You can groom somebody into enrolling them into the gang and believing that that's the right lifestyle for them and they're going to get all their dreams taken care of. But really, going back to the prostitution, pimps, I always said pimps are master enrollers because they can really get to that kid in their hopes and dreams and really turn it around where they think it's okay to have sex with many people in a day, many people in a week, years, whatever, doing illegal things, stealing even for that bigger vision of the pimp and his dreams and what he wants, which is really just money, clout, fame, all that stuff.
One of the follow-up questions from Marianne is what are the behaviors that show up in this process of grooming with the child?
Well, a lot of the kids that do get turned out, we call that turned out when they become a student or a pimp, a lot of those girls come from foster care, so they don't have anything. They don't have nice shoes, they don't have the designer clothes, they wanna get their nails done, their hair done, and things like that. That's easy. I can easily get your hair done, your nails done, get you a cute outfit, maybe a nice bag, might be a knockoff, and so they're saying, "Look, we can have all this stuff and more. We can have nicer cars, we can live in a nice house." I remember we had a pimp that lived right next door to Celine Dion, and he was renting the house. So imagine you're this girl and you meet this guy who grooms you and says, "We're going to have all these big dreams and aspirations and live large. And we live next door to Celine Dion, and you're living this. You get the nice clothes and stuff." And the misconception is that the girls get to keep the money and they don't. Now there's an investment the pimp has to do, which is to buy the nice clothes and the hair and the nails and stuff, because really he's just reinvesting into his product, which there is some kind of feeling that you're being taken care of and really you're doing all the dirty work. And then when you become older, you're going to easily be discarded and the pimp's got to go have another girl in your place when you're done.
Tammy asks, "What can I do to protect my kids that have special needs as they become adults?"
Wow. Depending on what their special needs are, they can be taken advantage of. I know a lot of autistic kids who are very loving and trusting. So I think when you have these conversations about stranger danger, you really got to think that not everybody is nice and sweet and has your best interest. So, you really got to think about, trying to teach them not to be so trusting and loving. I had a friend who had a brother that had Down syndrome. He was the most loving, trusting guy. And I know that if a bad person came, would totally take advantage of him, of his love and his trust. So I think it's about getting our kids to really use their gut. And if they don't have that, it's to really not be so trusting. Like ask a lot of questions, everything up and down about this person, but not being so trusting, special needs. It's a gift they have for loving everyone and everything, but they can easily be taken advantage of.
Wes writes about that. He says, if they have special needs, I think they're gonna have to keep monitoring and keep up with their lives probably a little bit more. Special needs kids are not much different than the elderly. You have to keep in touch with them and, like, educate them that people may be trying to take advantage. A good question, how do you speak to young kids that don't understand some of this language yet?
Well, I'm probably not the poster child of parenting because I would drive down Boulder Highway and show my kids what a prostitute looked like. And if they didn't finish college and high school, they were going to end up on the streets, which was probably not the best thing that a parent should do. My kids know what they look like at a very young age. This is what happens when you don't make good choices in your life. You start saying your choices do have consequences, and choices can set up things in your life. I know even right now, my kid is 19, and before she went to college, we really talked about making good choices and how if you post something that is maybe offensive to other people, there's consequences for that. I know she lost some friends because she posted some silly thing one time and she took it right down. And I was like, you got to really think about what you post and even just the decisions that you make, and that perception. Because it's funny. You and I, growing up, we didn't have that, and I always think, thank God I didn't have social media when I was a kid, because that would be haunting me still.
Yeah.
When it's on the internet, it's forever. So going back to starting them young and saying there's consequences to your choices and results. And if you don't like those results, next time don't do the same thing twice. If it's not beneficial to our life, make different choices. But I think when you start off with that about having kids really not make such impulsive choices as well, like, hey, think about this. Like, what is this going to get us? I think starting out really basic language and then like working into like opportunities to talk, like I'm not saying everybody take your kid down to Boulder Highway and show them what a prostitute looks like, but when you have like homeless guy or someone's acting crazy, maybe that's an opportunity to go, you know what, this person really looks like they're on drugs and drugs are bad. This is why they're bad. This is what can happen to you on them. It's just very casual conversations. And those kind of conversations really stick to kids when you see something because it's the scene with the conversation. It's not just me saying, oh, drugs are bad, don't do drugs. It's like, no, look, that person is high, is on drugs, and that's a result of choices that they made in their life. My kids
Wes
still to this day, they'll see a white van with no windows and they'll be like, "Oh, there's a sex offender van."
Wes in the chat, I think has some good comments. He says, "For my 12-year-old daughter, I just use more neutral language and emphasize that there are people that are out there to hurt you. Your parents will never hurt you, and so if anyone ever says, 'Don't tell us,' that is when
Yeah.
you tell us." And he says that they had a 10-year-old in their town kidnapped and abused recently, and so it's never too young to have those frank conversations with your kids.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Wes. If someone ever says, "Don't tell your parents," then you got a problem because someone is trying to indoctrinate your kid into something else they're probably not supposed to be doing.
From Renee, she said, "What's the best path for reporting if you suspect your child is exposed to a predator?"
If something's gone on, the first thing I would do is screenshot this person's handle, screenshot their conversation because you want to memorialize that because that stuff can go away if your kid deletes it or whatever. Then, depending on what the extent is of it, I would then block them. So if there's never been any contact, just screenshot it, get as much information as you can. Go into their profile too and screenshot that, not just the conversation, but you know how you open up Instagram, let's say you see a comment, open up the comment, and then open up his profile, take a screenshot of his profile, because the police will want to know as much information that you can. If you can get the handle, if you can get names. And like I said, I go through Instagram and I'll find people's date of birth and maybe where they're from. So I'm really digging into this person's profile and really trying to figure out who they are as a police officer. So the more info that you can find, the better. Now, if you want to go to the police and go, "Hey, this guy said X, Y, and Z to my kid," it depends on what they said. Will it be a crime or not? So depending on how far it goes, if it was like, "Hey, little girl, will you come over and have sex with me? I know you're 14 and da da." Okay, then we got a problem. That's a crime, right? Luring a minor is a crime. So you're going to want as much information as you can. Screenshot as much as you can to get as much information as you can. So that will help law enforcement because it's very easy for me to delete an account, an Instagram account, and then it's gone. And then we can't figure out who that was. Working undercover, I made up a ton of fake profiles. I can do one in probably 10 minutes on Instagram or TikTok. I can make up fake profiles left and right. So screenshot as much as you can and then if you can block them. But if it does go to a certain extent, you want to call the police and file a report for luring a minor. At minimum, would be the charge.
Is there like a point at which you should go and report it just in case you really have that gut instinct that there's something off here?
Yeah, you can make an informational only report at any substations, and usually it's other police stations as well. You can go and just say, "Hey, I just want the police department to know that this person has been talking like this to my kid. I just want it out there." Because what ultimately can happen is he actually does something with another kid, or this comes up again, and it's a different kid, different parent. And now we're working on a pattern of behavior for this person, and we really wanna stop that if that's the extent that it's going at that point.
Wes just wrote, "When in doubt, call your local PB, talk to them." It's probably better to go on the side of caution. We also got a question about self-defense.
I always tell women because I teach women, and they're generally law enforcement, and they're working undercover. And not even if you're working undercover, if you're in a uniform, you gotta train. You're working out. You're being strong. I gotta be able to fight a little bit until my backup comes. So I have to hold my own for a little bit. So I talk about women getting into some kind of ground fighting. Boxing is one thing, but ground fighting, because usually fights will end up on the ground and you want to be able to hold your own for a while. When I see some of these cops that they're not in shape, men and women, and I'm like, if the fight comes, your options are going to be much more limited. And I see some of these other things that are going on around the country when I get a lot of reels about police officers taking people into custody and they're resisting. And it takes 5 people to take one woman into custody, put handcuffs on her. And I'm like, wow, they're not talking to each other. They're not training those kind of tactics to really get this person into custody with minimal force.
I will share that back when Oprah had a show, the only show I could tell you that I ever saw and remembered of hers was on female self-defense. There were two things I've never forgotten. One was if you're in a dark parking lot, you're at the mall and you think somebody's behind you, you need to take away the element of surprise. So she said, all you do is you stop abruptly and turn to the side to the person's walking in front of you and you just say hi. And then you walk back towards the store. Suddenly they're thrown off because part of why they're attacking you is that feeling that they get from surprising somebody, overtaking them. And so when you interrupt that and now you've seen their face, they'll often go on to something else. So I just thought, well, that's brilliant. And I've done that before when something just kind of felt off. And then the second thing that she talked about was anytime you get taken away from the location, you have the greatest opportunity for things to go really bad. So she said, no matter what, don't leave the scene, don't get put in a car or anything like that, fight. And she said, even if they have guns, most criminals aren't that great at shooting. So she said, first of all, you've got a 50% chance that if you start running and taking off and not getting put in a car, that you'll get shot. Second, you got a 50% chance that if they shoot you and hit you, that it'll be fatal. So she said,
Yeah.
really, you've got a 100% chance of probably not surviving or living through this if you get taken away from the scene and people don't know where you went. But you've really got a 25% chance of not surviving it if you really look at the statistics. And that's always like stuck with me, just those little tips. And I think it's great to go do the self defense classes too. I've learned some of those before about how you throw your elbows or
Kick
use
them in the
your
ball.
body weight. Right. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Family jewels.
Yeah.
Yes. So
This is the thing. This is life for death. You're right. When you we call it trip. When you trip with somebody, it's not going to be good. You get into the car with somebody and leave, that's not going to be good. But you fight your ass off. If I was in a fight with somebody who was bigger, luckily I was never really in any big fights by myself, but I'm not playing nice. Like it's my life. That's what I'm fighting for. So I don't care if I bite you, knee you in the balls, scratch your face off, bite the guy's ear off. I don't care. I'm gonna live or I'm gonna die fighting and they're gonna have DNA under my nails. They're gonna know I fought my ass off to save my life. And that's for now. And I tell my kids that all the time. I'm like, hey, you just fight, fight, fight. And it's funny, if you start acting crazy, people are not going to want to kidnap you. You can shout out some stuff. If you act like a crazy person, they're going to be like, okay, this person's going to cause me more problems if I do rob them or kidnap them. I do say though, if someone does rob you or comes to rob you at gunpoint, give them your shit. Don't fight it. Say, hey, here's my stuff. You want my watch too? I'll give you my watch. I'm cool. I just want to live because it's just property. You can go buy a new one. You can get something else. Don't fight over stuff that you can get later.
concealed carry, do you recommend women getting that certification?
I do, but I do train this in my undercover school. And this is what I tell cops, the ones who actually fire guns and train, is if you're going to conceal carry, you better be really good at where you're concealing and carrying it. Because when the poop hits the fan and you're like, where's my gun? Where's my gun? If you're not proficient in where you have it every time and you're really proficient in pulling it out exactly where you have it. I have a lot of women who like to carry it in purses. Well, if it's not a purse, like a Jesse James purse, which I love those, which actually have built-in holsters, those are amazing because then it's easy. And I practice this like really, really proficiently. And this is a secure purse. It's not one that they can steal my purse. It's strapped to my body like a fanny pack. The fanny packs are cool. Thank God they came back. These Jesse James purses, they're actually cute now. They used to have these really ugly purses when I was younger that held firearms. And you practice, unzip, put your hand in, pull it out. And you want to practice that so it becomes second nature. And I know some people don't like the purses. I personally like the fanny pack type. I'm glad fanny packs came back into style because I can crossbody it and I can put a firearm in there and it's great. But you have to practice where you're going to carry it every time. A lot of people like to put an ankle holster on and put the gun on my ankle. You better be really proficient because when the fight's on, are you going to be able to bend down, unhook whatever mechanism it is that's holding the gun in there, the holster, pull it out, come up and shoot wherever you need to shoot. You really need to practice that. The problem is right now, Florida, they made open carry legal. And I just saw a kid get a gun taken away from him. He was at like a 7-Eleven. Somebody came up from behind, took his gun right out of his open carry. And I was like, yeah, now you just gave a bad guy a gun. And that's the last thing we want. And you don't want to be shot with your own gun. That's like a lot of cops' fears when we work is when we are struggling with a suspect and he starts going for our gun, we're like, he's got our gun. That's when we go crazy because we don't want that gun taken away from us.
Talk about the closed carry training as well as self-defense.
Yeah, so if you just Google, you can probably chat GPT at this point, CCW permits. There was one out here for a long time that was doing one. I think it was called, it was just for women. And so you can go there and get CCW certified, trained. You have to do it every year to recertify as well. So you have to go and shoot and you have to score a certain number on the target in order to be approved to get that CCW. So wherever you're at, just Google or Chat GPT, where can I get a CCW? Because there's a ton here in Vegas, especially because Las Vegas and Nevada as a whole is an open carry state. So if you go to Tonopah, you go to little towns around Nevada, you'll see people just open carry left and right. So anyone can open carry as long as you're not a felon. But I say again, like if you don't have some kind of retention on that holster and someone takes your gun, that's kind of the responsibility that you hold when you decide to be a gun owner, and going back to that too, I'm glad that got brought up because one of the big things when I was a police officer, when I was working community policing in Northwest area, was the amount of kids that got a hold of their parents' guns because they did not secure them. They did not put them in a safe. They didn't put a lock on them. They didn't have them unloaded and in different places. It's just another option, but that's not the best option. Clearly is safe. But we had kids that shot themselves as young as 2, got a hold of their parents' gun and shot themselves, or shot another sibling. That's stuff that can be prevented. Leaving guns out is not a good idea, especially with kids and older kids. Now, teaching your kids good safety with guns, 100%. They should be able to unload it, load it. They should know what the safety features are of a firearm so they can be proficient. Hunting and things like that is great, but don't be leaving guns out. And please, 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 one of the biggest things that really irritated us is leaving guns in your car. And then your car gets broken into and you don't have it secure. And now a bad guy's got your gun. We don't want bad guys to have guns. We want good people to have guns, but don't facilitate it and make it too easy for them to get guns as well.
Great. Well, thank you, Jen. Why don't we wrap up with you telling us just a little bit about Covert Blue and what you've got coming up?
Yeah. So, thank you so much for having me on here. I really appreciate it. I retired and it was kind of a rough transition. And I ended up at Choice 6 months after, thanks to Marianne. Everyone can thank Marianne. I know, I know that's one of the best thing I ever did was say yes to her and trust her. But my mind wasn't right when I retired because I saw a lot in my career and it was a lot of bad stuff. And I wanted to really disconnect myself from the police and I didn't want to do that anymore. I wanted to go a different direction. But then I got my mind right by going through Choice and getting more emotionally intelligent. And then I realized I'm like, wow, I have all this stuff in my mind that I'm hiding and not giving to other people. And one of the things that I love about Choice is really being in service to other people. So I created Covert Blue LLC because I need to give this information to future females in undercover world, as well as anyone who wants to do any kind of undercover operation. So I started Covert Blue LLC. It's a training business where I can come to you, any jurisdiction. I'm working on going to Fort Worth to train them on undercover operations. In February, I will have my goal because we talk about visions and what has inspired me, especially going through Choice, is to create the biggest vision I have of my business, which is to create the largest female undercover school that is solely trained by women. Because me growing up in the vice world, I was trained by guys mostly. I had one female, she helped me out. But when she wasn't there, it was guys telling me how to work undercover as a prostitute. So like mansplaining to me how to go and work on the street. So my knowledge in my head, my stories that I tell, these need to come out so other women can learn from it. And so in February, I'm creating the largest female school that's trained solely by females. And my goal is 100 plus women in that room. And that's my big goal right now.
Beautiful. And it's in February at the Gold Coast here in Las Vegas. And who's the candidates? Like, is it people that work in different jurisdictions of law enforcement?
Yeah, so it's any woman who's in law enforcement. And why I say that is because I don't want just the officers and detectives. I want the crime analysts. I want the dispatchers. I want the DAs and the DA investigators. I want women who may not want to do undercover work, but want to be able to manage the investigations and the operations and to learn about vice operations, narcotics investigations. So it's really for everyone who's supporting women and other women in law enforcement. So no matter what their role is, it could be a dispatcher and she understands what's going on in that call. Great. She's more educated and she's only going to be a benefit to the rest of her team. So yeah, it's for any current law enforcement.
Beautiful. Well, it's great to have you in our choice community, always giving us tips for, like safety, like being able to be a resource for us to call if there's, like anything that comes up. And we just really appreciate you and we're so proud of you for what you're creating and pioneering for females right now in the undercover and covert operations field. So congratulations.
Thank you. I so appreciate it. And thank you guys. And thanks everyone who logged on. I actually talked to Corrine about her coming in and speaking to the women about choice and emotional intelligence and how that benefits law enforcement. 'Cause the suicide rate is way more than any other profession. And we want to be able to retire and then enjoy all that money that we made and our time in the rest of our lives. And the job really wears on you. I think I'm a good example. I left the department and I was really in a bad, dark place like many law enforcement do when they leave the job. But then I discovered choice and emotional intelligence and got my mind right. And now the world's my oyster. I can do whatever I want, and I have a different perspective in life.
Well, thank you, Jen. Thank you, everybody. And we'll see you next Monday.